It was 3:17 p.m. on a hot, sticky Wednesday when it happened. A massive 40-foot silver maple came crashing down like the world was ending on our quiet street. It split right through the sunroom of 108 Juniper Circle, crushed a koi pond, and flattened a wooden nativity scene that had been sitting there since 2014. The sound was like thunder living in our neighborhood. People ran outside, some shouting, others just staring in shock. Mrs. Peterson's little chihuahua jumped straight into her porch kiddie pool, and in the middle of all that chaos stood Joanne Delroy, our HOA president, self-proclaimed tree expert, and at that moment, a woman who might have just broken several laws. She was covered in sap and dirt, looking like nature had decided to get revenge on her. She stared up at the broken tree trunk sitting perfectly on the property line, and let out a scream so loud the chihuahua jumped again. "That tree was a code violation," she yelled. "I was protecting the community." Her voice cracked on the word community, like she was trying to convince herself more than anyone else. But everyone there knew the truth. That tree wasn't hers. It was mine, completely on my property, and now it was gone. Let me rewind 2 months to when this whole disaster started. My name's Wesley Grant. I'd just moved to Dove Hollow Estates to enjoy early retirement after 35 years of teaching high school history. My wife passed away from cancer 3 years ago, and all I wanted was peace, somewhere quiet to do my woodworking, and finally finish the book I'd been writing about the Civil War. The house at 106 Juniper Circle was perfect. It had a big garage for my workshop, a peaceful street, and one special thing that made me fall in love with it: a beautiful silver maple tree in the backyard. It must have been at least 80 years old, tall and strong with 3 bird nests hidden in its branches. That tree was everything to me. I hung my wind chimes there, tied up my hammock, and spent most evenings sitting under it with my cold brew coffee, listening to history documentaries while I whittled chess pieces. It was peaceful, until she arrived. Enter Joanne Delroy. If I had to describe her in one word, it'd be beige. Everything about her was beige. Her hair, her clothes, even her personality. She carried a clipboard everywhere, like it was a weapon, and she walked the neighborhood like a general inspecting troops. As the HOA president, Joanne treated rules like holy scripture. She fined people for grass being a 1/4 inch too long, banned certain patio umbrellas, and even tried to outlaw wind chimes for causing unregulated tonal discord. The first day she saw my tree, I knew I was in trouble. She stood at the property line for 5 full minutes, glaring up at it like it had personally insulted her. When I came out to say hello, she didn't even greet me. "That tree disrupts the uniform skyline of the neighborhood," she said. I laughed at first. Who even talks like that about trees? But her expression didn't change. She meant it. The notes started soon after, neatly typed, laminated, and slipped under my door like official legal documents. The first one read, "Tree must be trimmed per HOA Regulation 7.23b, vertical uniformity of vegetation." I had to read it 3 times to be sure it wasn't a joke. That rule was meant for hedges by the sidewalk, not trees in private yards. But Joanne didn't care. Every time I responded, she sent another note, each one more passive-aggressive than the last. Then came the drive-bys. Her hybrid car would crawl past my house at 2 miles per hour, while she peered through binoculars, holding some kind of noise meter. One night around 2 a.m., I caught her in my yard, actually measuring the trunk of my tree with a tape measure. When I turned on the porch light, she looked right at me and said, "Exceeds standard girth," and calmly walked away. That was when I realized, this wasn't about the tree. Joanne wanted control, and she'd stop at nothing to get it. For weeks, I tried to stay calm and reasonable. I sent Joanne polite emails with property surveys, showing that my silver maple was completely on my land. I attached arborist reports proving it was healthy and safe. I even offered to meet with her and the HOA board to clear things up, but Joanne didn't want to talk. She wanted to win. When I didn't obey her ridiculous demands, she started sending fake violations: $240 for shade encroachment, $75 for leaf accumulation, another $100 for disturbing the peace, because apparently, my wind chimes were too loud for a neighbor 3 blocks away. I began keeping detailed records, every email, every laminated note, even videos of her slow car patrols. My neighbor Tom, a retired lawyer, told me it was a good idea. He said Joanne had done this before. She'd driven away 3 other homeowners in the last 5 years, but I wasn't leaving. That tree wasn't just wood and leaves to me, it was a memory. My wife and I had our first home under a tree just like it. Sitting beneath its branches was one of the few things that still made me feel close to her. Then came trash day. I'll never forget that morning. 6:14 a.m. I woke to the sound of a chainsaw, loud, close, and wrong. My heart dropped. I ran to the window, and what I saw nearly made me stop breathing. A landscaping crew, 3 guys in dusty uniforms, were setting up around my silver maple. One man had already wrapped ropes around the trunk. I threw on a shirt and ran outside. "Hey, what are you doing?" I shouted.
The foreman, a nervous-looking man who kept glancing at his phone, said, "Ma'am, Delroy from the HOA said it's an emergency trim, fully approved, totally legal." He showed me a document on his phone, a PDF that looked like it was made by a child. The letterhead was crooked, the signature was copy-pasted, and the date said 3 days in the future. "This is fake," I told him. "That tree's mine. Stop now before you get in real trouble." The foreman hesitated. He clearly didn't want to be there, but one of his workers had already started the chainsaw again. Before I could reach him, he cut a deep notch at the base of my tree. The sound that followed was horrible, a cracking, groaning sound that felt alive. The maple swayed, slowly, too slowly. Every person there froze, and then gravity decided what came next. The tree began to fall, not toward my yard, but toward Joanne's. She'd told them to cut from the wrong side, probably thought she was some kind of expert after watching a few online videos. The moment felt endless. The tree leaned, tilted, and then came down like divine payback. It crashed straight through Joanne's sunroom, smashed her koi pond, and flattened her wooden nativity scene, the one she'd fined others for leaving up past January. The impact shook the ground. The sound echoed across the neighborhood. The worker who'd made the cut dropped his chainsaw and ran down the street without a word. The foreman started panicking, babbling about how Joanne told him it was all legal, and then Joanne came running out of her house, in a robe, holding a mug of tea. Her face went pale when she saw the destruction. "This is your fault," she screamed. "You'll pay for this." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My tree, my property had crushed her house because she ordered it cut down. Neighbors began to gather. Phones came out. People whispered. By that afternoon, someone had already uploaded the whole thing to Nextdoor. You could clearly see Joanne sitting in her lawn chair, sipping her iced tea, giving orders to the crew. Within 24 hours it hit Facebook. Free firewood at 108 Juniper. By the weekend, a local news station was calling it the Dove Hollow Chainsaw Scandal. They interviewed me on my lawn, right next to what was left of my tree. I told them the truth. The HOA president forged documents and destroyed private property, and that was the moment everything changed. When the local news clip aired, everything in Dove Hollow changed overnight. For months Joanne had been untouchable, the kind of person who could park her SUV in a fire lane because she was HOA business. But after that video went viral, after everyone saw her ordering a crew to illegally cut down my tree, her power began to crumble. At first she tried to spin the story. She posted on the neighborhood forum claiming the video was taken out of context, and that she was just supervising emergency maintenance. No one believed her. Neighbors who'd stayed quiet for years suddenly started sharing their own stories. How Joanne fined them $50 for parking too close to the curb. How she screamed at a teenage boy for mowing at an unapproved height. How she banned Halloween decorations because they lowered property values. The HOA's inbox exploded. The board held an emergency meeting without her. I didn't go. I didn't need to. I had a bigger plan. A week after the tree incident, a city inspector knocked on my door. He'd seen the footage too and said it showed clear violations, destruction of private property, misuse of HOA authority, and unlicensed contracting. He asked if I wanted to file a complaint. I smiled. Already did. See, 2 days after the crash, I'd hired a lawyer. Tom's old law firm, actually. They helped me gather every email, photo, and timestamp. The fake PDF, the video of Joanne directing the workers, the receipt from the landscaping company showing she paid them personally in cash. We filed a civil suit for property damage and emotional distress. The total, $86,000. Joanne thought she could scare me out of it. She sent me a letter, hand-delivered of course, saying the HOA would countersue me for defamation. I sent it straight to my lawyer. 3 weeks later, the county sheriff served her with official papers. The look on her face when they arrived. I didn't see it, but the neighbors sure did. Someone even posted a photo online. HOA president served on her lawn. The post got 7,000 likes. By the time the court date came, the story had reached national outlets. Small-town HOA president, destroys tree, gets sued by homeowner. Even the local radio joked about it during morning traffic updates.
When Joanne finally faced the judge, she tried everything. Denial, tears, even claiming it was all a misunderstanding. But the evidence was too clear. The landscaper testified that she'd pressured them into cutting it. The forged permit was presented in court, and the video, recorded from 3 different angles, sealed it. The judge's words were short but perfect. "Mrs. Delroy, you abused your position. You acted without authority. You will pay for the damages in full." Her voice cracked as she tried to argue, but the gavel came down before she could finish. The HOA voted her out that same evening. A new board was formed, people who actually wanted peace and community, not control. They issued a formal apology to me, and even helped plant a new tree in the same spot. It wasn't as tall as the old one, but it felt right. I named it Grace. As for Joanne, she sold her house within a month. Rumor says she moved 2 counties over, to a gated community with strict enforcement. Old habits die hard, I guess. But here's the part that stuck with me most. One quiet Sunday, a moving truck pulled up to her old house. A young couple stepped out with their toddler, smiling and waving. They brought cookies to the neighbors, asked about the best schools, and didn't care about lawn heights or mailbox paint. The neighborhood finally felt alive again. I sat on my porch that evening, under the branches of grace, sipping coffee as the sunset painted the sky orange. Tom walked over, chuckling. You know, he said, Joanne used to call herself the Queen of Dove Hollow. Yeah, I said, smiling. Guess the kingdom had enough of royalty. He laughed, and for the first time in a long time, I did too. The wind rustled through Grace's new leaves, a soft, steady sound, like an exhale after a storm. And I thought, maybe peace doesn't come from silence. Maybe it comes from standing up, even when someone insists you're supposed to sit down.